I'd trade 10 herds for one night inside you, lone cowboy whispered to the widow. The twin sons of Eredra, 9 beat down on the endless red plains. Dust swirled around the legs of a lone figure on a hover horse, his silhouette sharp against the shimmering horizon. His hat was pulled low, and his coat flapped with the dry wind. Known only as Cole, he was a cowboy without a herd, a wanderer with skill in both rifle and survival. For months he had ridden across these harsh lands, looking for work, for something to root himself to, for a purpose beyond drifting from one settlement to the next. Ahead lay a small cluster of domed buildings, a settlement clinging to life in the middle of the desert. The air shimmered with heat and the faint hum of solar collectors. As Cole approached, he noticed movement near the outer fences, a woman tending to a small herd of glowing, bioengineered livestock. Her figure was strong and deliberate. She wore a dust-stained apron over practical clothes, her hair tied back and her eyes sharp as they scanned the horizon. There was authority in her posture, a quiet command of the land that spoke of experience, resilience, and loss. She was Mara, the widow of the ranch that once thrived here. After her husband disappeared in a mining accident, she had taken the reins alone, guarding her herd against both the desert and opportunistic raiders. The settlement had whispered about her toughness, saying she would not trust a stranger. Cole, sensing both challenge and opportunity, slowed his horse as he neared her. "Morning," he called out, his voice low but steady. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Morning. You're far from any known road. Who are you?" Cole tipped his hat slightly. "Name's Cole. Just looking for work. Heard there's a ranch needing hands around here." She studied him. There was a flicker of interest behind her guarded expression, but it was fleeting. "Hands, huh? This ain't no place for strangers." "The desert takes what it wants." Cole's lips curled into a faint smile. "I know the desert. Desert knows me." There was a pause. The wind carried grains of sand that scratched against the domed roofs, the mechanical hum of the herd's feeding stations blending with the sound of the hover horse's engine. Mara's gaze softened slightly as she returned to her herd, but she didn't speak. Cole took that as an invitation to approach, keeping his movements slow and respectful. It was not easy work running a ranch on Eredra. 9. The livestock were genetically engineered for heat and low water conditions, but they still needed careful tending. Cole helped her move a group of animals into a shaded pen, adjusting the automated feeders and reinforcing a weak section of the fence. Mara watched silently, evaluating his skill, but also noting his quiet confidence. Hours passed. The suns dipped lower, painting the sky in orange and violet streaks. Just as Cole was finishing tightening a panel on the fence, a low rumble came from the horizon. Dust and grit blew over the plains, and Mara's hand went instinctively to her side, where a small plasma pistol hung in a worn holster. "Sandstorm," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge of urgency. "If you're staying, best find shelter." "Got it." They hurried toward her dome-shaped home, a sturdy structure reinforced for both weather and attack. Inside it was cool and dark, the faint smell of oil and cooked food mingling with the scent of dust. Mara set about securing the door, adjusting protective shutters while Cole watched, impressed by the careful routine. "You've been running this place alone?" Cole asked, trying to keep the conversation light. Mara paused. "Since my husband went missing. People come and go, but this land, it stays. I stay with it. Keeps me busy, keeps me alive." Cole nodded slowly, respecting her resilience. "I've been a wanderer long enough. Sometimes keeping busy is all a man can do." The storm raged outside, the winds howling across the plains, rattling the domes and sending sheets of sand scraping across metal surfaces. In the small warmth of the widow's home, the tension outside seemed distant but never fully gone. Cole and Mara worked together to secure the last panels, their hands brushing occasionally. She didn't shy away, and he didn't press. There was a growing understanding, trust in silence, companionship without words. When the final shutter was locked, Mara gestured toward a small table. "It's safer here." Cole obeyed, settling into a chair made from reinforced composite. Mara poured water into a metal cup, offering it to him. Their fingers brushed lightly. He took the cup, eyes meeting hers. There was an unspoken acknowledgement in that look, a shared recognition of solitude, survival, and the unyielding desert that had shaped them both. "Your husband? You miss him?" Cole asked softly, not wanting to pry too much but unable to ignore the presence of grief in her expression. Mara sighed, eyes distant. "Every day. But the desert doesn't wait. Life doesn't wait. You survive, or it takes you. Cole nodded. I know the feeling. Lost more than I can count, but the planes, they keep calling back. Outside, the storm intensified. Dust and debris hammered the domes. Inside, the two of them shared quiet conversation, swapping tales of survival, of strange beasts and alien scavengers, of the challenges unique to life on Eredra. 9. Slowly, Mara's posture softened. She began to see Cole not as a stranger, but as someone who could understand this harsh world she navigated alone. As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting a pale light over the desert. Shadows stretched long across the interior of the dome. Mara moved to check the feeding systems one last time before the night fully settled. Cole followed, helping quietly. Their movements were synchronized now, unspoken teamwork built from hours of shared effort. Storm's not letting up, Mara said, glancing out at the glowing sand swirling in the moonlight. We'll have to stay inside till morning. Cole's gaze lingered on her. He wanted to say something that would acknowledge the growing connection without overstepping. Instead, he merely said, "Good thing I know how to tell a story by the fire." Mara raised an eyebrow, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Stories. Haven't heard a good one in years. Cole grinned. You'll see. The two settled by a small heater, its soft hum a counterpoint to the storm outside. Cole began recounting tales of desert raids, of mech horses outrunning rogue drones, and of narrow escapes across alien canyons.
Mara listened,
intrigued, occasionally adding her own commentary, laughing quietly at a well-timed twist in the story. For a moment, the harsh world outside didn't matter. There was warmth, companionship, and a fragile sense of peace. And in that quiet, Mara realized that perhaps she didn't have to face the frontier alone. Cole, looking at the widow beside him, felt a rare sense of purpose. He was no longer just a wanderer. Here was someone whose life intersected with his in the most unexpected way, someone who could see him not as a stranger, not as a lone cowboy, but as an ally. The twin moons cast silver light on the walls of the dome. Outside, the desert raged, but inside a new chapter quietly began, a story of trust, resilience, and the slow, careful unfolding of connection between two people who had learned to survive alone. Cole didn't speak the words that whispered in his mind, the ones that carried the weight of longing and admiration. He didn't need to. Mara, in her quiet strength, understood. And that understanding was enough for the night. The storm would pass. The desert would remain. But inside the dome, two lives had begun to intertwine, ready for the challenges of tomorrow. The morning sun burned pale over the red sands of Eredra. 9. The storm had passed, leaving a fine layer of dust that glittered faintly in the twin sun's light. Cole and Mara stepped outside, stretching and taking in the quiet plains. The herd was calm, grazing slowly near the shade of artificial canopies that protected them from the harsh sunlight. Cole noticed Mara's gaze linger on a small, half-buried mound near the edge of her property. "What's that?" he asked. Mara frowned. "I don't know. Might be nothing. Could be something." Curiosity sparked. Cole dismounted and approached. He knelt, brushing sand aside, and uncovered a small metallic case. It was a data pad, sealed but still functional, its surface scratched and sun-bleached. Cole held it carefully. "Looks old, but still working. That belonged to my husband." Her voice was soft, almost reverent. "He was always exploring the outskirts. I feared something happened out there, but I never imagined." Her words trailed off. Cole nodded. "Maybe it's a clue." He tapped the pad, and a holographic display flickered to life. Coordinates, maps, and strange symbols appeared, along with a recorded message in her husband's voice. "I'm leaving this here for you, Mara," the recording said. "If I don't return, trust your instincts. Protect the herd, and protect yourself. There's more at stake than just these planes."
Mara's hands trembled slightly as she held the pad.
He wanted to make sure I was safe," she whispered. "But why here? Why now?" Cole looked at the data, scanning the coordinates. Whatever he found, it's important. Could be dangerous, too. Those coordinates, they lead to something out in the desert, something someone else might want. Her eyes sharpened. Raiders? Or worse? Cole nodded. Alien smugglers, rogue drones, maybe both. If you've got an artifact or secret he wanted hidden, they won't stop until they get it. Mara's jaw tightened. Then we need to move carefully. We can't let them know it exists. Over the next hours they prepared. Cole checked his weapons. a plasma revolver at his side, a short energy rifle slung over his back. Mara packed supplies, reinforcing the herd pens and loading a small hover buggy with essential tools. The tension between them had shifted from curiosity to quiet determination. They were partners now, bound by circumstance and the need to survive. As the sun climbed, they mounted hover horses and rode out toward the coordinates. The desert stretched endlessly, red sands and jagged rock formations rising like silent guardians. The wind carried the scent of ozone and heated metal. Cole led the way, his eyes scanning for movement, his hand ready near the trigger. Mara followed closely, her mind alert, calculating, yet trusting him. Hours passed. The coordinates led them to a narrow canyon, walls glowing faintly with natural luminescence, a phenomenon rare on this planet. At the canyon's end, they found a small camouflaged cave. Its entrance was partially hidden by rock formations, but sensors on the datapad confirmed something inside. "Be ready for anything," Cole whispered. Mara nodded, unsheathing her plasma pistol. Together, they entered the cave, the air cool and still after the desert heat. The interior was lined with alien technology, smooth metal walls embedded with blinking lights. At the center of the room rested a small pedestal holding a crystalline artifact that pulsed faintly with energy. Mara's breath caught. This must be what my husband found. Cole approached slowly, examining the artifact. Energy readings are stable, but someone else will want this. Whoever they are, they'll track it. Suddenly, a low hum filled the cave, and holographic sensors activated. A recorded warning, alien in tone but understandable, projected in the air. Unauthorized access detected. Protective measures engaged. Cole grabbed Mara's arm. "Step back." Laser turrets emerged from the walls, scanning their movements. Cole ducked behind a pillar and fired precise shots, deactivating the closest turret. Mara followed, her aim steady, disabling another with a clean blast. The teamwork between them was instinctive now, each understanding the other's movements, protecting and covering. The turrets deactivated with a final click, leaving the artifact undisturbed. Cole exhaled. That was too close. "We make a good team," she said, a faint smile breaking through her tension. Cole allowed himself a small grin. "Better than I expected." They retrieved the artifact carefully, placing it in a protective container. Its faint pulse seemed almost alive, like a heartbeat from another world. Mara marveled at it, her thoughts drifting to her husband. "He trusted us with this," she said softly. "I won't let him down." On the ride back, the desert sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. Shadows stretched across the dunes as they moved swiftly, alert for any sign of followers. Cole rode slightly ahead, scanning the plains, while Mara kept the container secure in the hover buggy they had parked nearby. As night fell, they reached the safety of her domed ranch. The stars above were brilliant, alien constellations twinkling across the sky. They secured the artifact inside a reinforced safe room, its pulse casting faint light across the walls. Mara finally relaxed, sitting on a small bench nearby. Cole leaned against the wall, glancing at her. "You handled yourself well out there," he said. Mara shrugged lightly. "I had help." Her eyes met his, and for a moment words were unnecessary. Trust and respect flowed between them, stronger than any spoken promise. Cole smiled faintly. "You don't realize it, but you're tougher than most men I've met out here." She shook her head, a soft laugh escaping.
Tough, maybe.
"Stubborn? Definitely. But thank you for helping me." The wind whispered through the desert, carrying the faint hum of distant machinery. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the threat of raiders or alien scavengers lingered, but inside the dome there was warmth, safety, and quiet companionship. Night deepened. Cole and Mara took turns keeping watch, their movements comfortable, coordinated. At one point, Mara caught Cole staring at her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "What?" she asked lightly, not wanting to break the silence. Cole shook his head. "Nothing. Just thinking about how strange it is, finding someone you can trust out here. Hard to come by in a place like this." Mara's eyes softened. "Trust is earned," she said simply. And in that moment, Cole knew he had earned hers, and she his. The desert was unforgiving, the threats constant, but together they were stronger. Together they had found something rare. Partnership in the wilderness, a bond that could withstand both the harsh landscape and the dangers that lurked beyond the plains. Before sleep, Mara returned to the artifact's safe, looking at it one last time. "My husband believed in me," she murmured. "And now I believe in us." Cole, watching from the doorway, allowed himself a small, quiet hope. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he belonged somewhere, not as a wanderer, but as a protector, a companion, someone who mattered. The twin moons rose over Eridra, 9, casting silver light across the dome. Outside, the desert was vast and quiet, but inside, a story was unfolding. A story of trust, courage, and a growing connection between a widow and the lone cowboy who had ridden into her life. As they settled in for the night, the hum of machinery and the soft breathing of the herd became a lullaby, a rhythm of life on a frontier planet where danger and hope existed side by side. And in the quiet, Mara and Cole both understood the adventure was only beginning. The desert night on Eridra. 9 was silent, the twin moons casting long, pale shadows across Mara's ranch. Inside the dome, the artifact rested safely in its reinforced container, humming softly with a faint pulse of energy. Cole and Mara were exhausted from the day's adventure, but the quiet felt uneasy. Both sensed that the desert never stayed still for long. Cole stood at the viewport, scanning the horizon. "Something's coming," he murmured, his hand instinctively resting on the handle of his plasma revolver. Mara tightened her grip on her energy rifle. "Raiders?" she asked. Cole nodded slowly. "Either raiders or scavengers. They know something is out here. That artifact, it draws attention." Before Mara could respond, the distant hum of engines reached their ears, growing louder by the second. Outside, a group of hoverbikes kicked up red dust, moving fast and silent, cutting across the dunes with deadly precision. Cole's eyes narrowed. "They're fast, and they're close. We can't outrun them all, but maybe we can outsmart them." Cole grinned faintly, a spark of excitement mixed with determination in his eyes. "I was hoping you'd say that." The first raider appeared over a dune, firing a pulse blast that struck a nearby storage unit. Sparks flew, and the unit toppled, sending debris skidding across the sand. Cole and Mara dove behind the reinforced walls of the dome, returning fire. Plasma bolts zipped across the night, striking the sand, leaving scorched marks and glimmers of light in their wake. Cole's aim was steady. He shot with precision, taking out a hoverbike's engine before it could reach the dome. Mara's shots were quick, disabling another scout. Together, their teamwork was instinctive, honed from the hours of trust they had built over the previous day. But the raiders were persistent. More of them emerged from the shadows, armed with advanced rifles and energy lances. Cole glanced at Mara. "We need to move the artifact, now. I've already prepped the buggy. Follow me." They dashed through the back exit, carrying the container between them. The hover buggy waited nearby, engines humming softly. Mara climbed in, starting the vehicle, while Cole jumped onto the back, keeping his weapon trained on the approaching raiders. The buggy lurched forward, kicking up sand as they sped across the desert plain. The raiders followed, their hoverbikes glinting in the moonlight. Pulse blasts hit the sand around them, narrowly missing the buggy as Cole fired back, taking out several of their pursuers. Mara weaved through the dunes, her hands steady on the controls, her mind calculating each turn and jump. "This way," Cole shouted, pointing toward a narrow canyon. The walls were jagged and uneven, a risky path but perfect for ambush. Mara turned sharply, the buggy skidding across the sand as they entered the canyon. Rocks loomed on either side, creating shadows that hid them from the raiders' sensors. Cole fired at drones that appeared above the canyon, blasting them out of the sky with precise shots. Sparks rained down, illuminating their path in flashes. The canyon twisted and turned, and the raiders struggled to follow. Some collided with rocks, their vehicles damaged. Others were forced to slow down, losing the advantage of speed. Cole and Mara moved like shadows through the terrain, their teamwork seamless. At one point, Mara's hover buggy caught a slight rise in the ground, launching them into the air over a small ravine. Cole held the artifact container tight, his body tensed against the movement. When they landed, the buggy skidded slightly, but both remained safe. Mara exhaled sharply, a grin breaking through her determined expression. "Nice move," Cole said. "Not bad for a widow out here on her own." Mara smirked. "I've learned a thing or two about surviving the desert." A raider ambushed them from behind, firing a net that expanded into a magnetic field. The buggy slowed as the net wrapped around the wheels, pulling them toward the sand. Cole reacted instantly, leaping from the back and firing a precise shot at the device. Sparks erupted as the net short-circuited, freeing the buggy. Mara threw him a quick glance. "You okay back there?" Cole gave a thumbs up. "Never better." As they emerged from the canyon, the desert opened into a wide plateau. The raiders regrouped, readying for a final strike. Cole scanned the terrain and spotted a small ridge ahead. "We can trap them there," he said. "Follow my lead." They approached the ridge carefully. Cole dismounted, using the rocky cover to position himself while Mara remained in the buggy, ready to lure the raiders. When the raiders took the bait, pursuing the buggy across the open plateau, Cole fired at hidden charges along the path, creating controlled explosions. Sand and rock erupted, throwing the raiders off balance. Several vehicles were disabled, others were forced to retreat. Mara brought the buggy safely to Cole's side. Both breathed heavily, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. The artifact container hummed softly between them, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. "You did good," Mara said, her voice quiet but filled with appreciation. Cole looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "We did good. Couldn't have done it without you." Mara's gaze softened. I think my husband would be proud of us." Cole nodded. "He'd be proud of you. You handled yourself out there better than most men I've met." There was a moment of silence, the kind that comes after shared danger, when words are unnecessary. The bond between them had deepened, forged in the fires of adrenaline and trust. The desert around them was quiet again, but both knew this peace was fragile. They returned to the ranch, keeping a cautious watch. The artifact was secured once more, and the herd was safe. Mara and Cole finally allowed themselves to rest, settling near the small heater inside the dome. "I've ridden across many worlds, faced dangers I never thought I'd survive, but out here with you, it feels different. Worth it." Mara looked at him, a faint blush on her cheeks. "Different how?" "I don't know. Safer. Levalier. Less alone." Mara smiled softly. "You're not alone anymore, Cole. Not here. Not anymore." The twin moons cast silver light across the interior of the dome. Cole and Mara sat together, listening to the soft hum of the artifact and the gentle breathing of the herd. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, full of danger and mystery. Inside, there was warmth, companionship, and a connection that neither of them had expected to find in the harsh frontier. As they prepared to sleep, Mara glanced at Cole. "Tomorrow, we'll need a plan. Whoever sent those raiders won't stop." Cole nodded. "I've got a few ideas." "We'll be ready." But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of peace, the kind that comes after surviving impossible odds together. The desert was unforgiving, the threats constant, but in each other's company they had found trust, courage, and something more, something worth protecting. And in the quiet, both knew that this adventure was far from over. The desert of Eridra. 9 still held secrets, dangers, and wonders. But with the bond they had formed, Mara and Cole were ready to face whatever came next, side by side. The first light of dawn stretched across the red plains of Eridra, 9 casting long shadows from jagged rock formations. The desert was quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Cole and Mara stood at the edge of the plateau, eyes scanning the horizon. The raiders they had fought off in the canyon weren't gone for good. Someone, or something, was still tracking the artifact. Cole adjusted his plasma revolver at his side and looked at Mara. "We don't have much time. If they come back, it'll be more than a few raiders. Could be a full strike team." Mara nodded, tightening her grip on the energy rifle. "Then we'll be ready together." They moved swiftly across the desert, using the terrain to their advantage. The artifact container was strapped securely to Mara's hover buggy, which hummed softly as they maneuvered over dunes and rocky ridges. The desert air was sharp and dry, but their focus was sharper. Every sound, every flicker of movement could signal danger. As they approached a narrow canyon near the ridge, distant engines roared. Cole froze. There they are. From the horizon, a fleet of raider hoverbikes appeared, their silhouettes sharp against the rising suns. They split into 2 groups, one heading directly toward Cole and Mara, the other attempting to flank around the canyon. "Stay low, follow me," Cole whispered. He guided Mara through a series of twists and turns, leading them to a rocky outcrop that overlooked the canyon floor. From this vantage point, they could see the raiders organizing, preparing for a final assault. Cole crouched behind a boulder, scanning the attackers. "We can't take them all head-on."
"We need to make the terrain work for us."
Mara nodded, placing the artifact safely behind a reinforced rock wall. "Then let's use the canyon. We can funnel them into a trap." Cole set small energy charges along the canyon's narrow passages while Mara watched the raiders approach. When everything was ready, Cole gave a quiet signal. Mara drove the hover buggy forward, deliberately drawing the raiders into the canyon's narrow entrance. The raiders took the bait, chasing the buggy into the canyon. Cole activated the charges. Controlled explosions erupted, collapsing sections of rock and sand, forcing the raiders to slow down and split their forces. Sparks and dust filled the air as plasma fire ricocheted off the canyon walls. Cole and Mara moved like shadows, striking from above, using the terrain for cover. Mara's shots disabled engines, and Cole's precise aim took out several raiders before they could react. The canyon became a maze of controlled chaos, each move calculated, each strike purposeful. One raider attempted to breach their position from a side passage, firing a high-energy lance. Cole leaped from a boulder, rolling to the side and firing a plasma shot that neutralized the threat. Mara's hover buggy skidded to block the other side, creating a choke point. Breathing heavily, Cole looked at Mara. "We're almost through this." One more push. Mara's eyes narrowed. "Let's finish it." The remaining raiders regrouped, but Cole had anticipated their strategy. He triggered the final energy charges in a carefully planned sequence. Rocks and sand fell, creating barriers that trapped the raiders' vehicles. With no escape, they surrendered, their weapons deactivated by Cole's precise disabling shots. The desert fell silent again. Cole and Mara stood among the dust and rubble, the rising suns casting long shadows. The artifact pulsed softly between them, safe at last. Mara exhaled, a mix of relief and exhaustion washing over her. "It's over for now," Cole approached, brushing dust from his coat. "For now," he agreed. "But out here, nothing stays quiet for long. You need to be ready." Mara glanced at him, her expression softening. "I think I can handle whatever comes next, with you here." Cole smiled faintly. "I'm not going anywhere." The two of them returned to the ranch, securing the artifact in a reinforced chamber. The herd was calm, grazing under the protective canopies, unaware of the chaos that had swept the plains that morning. Mara checked each pen, ensuring the animals were safe. Cole helped, moving with quiet efficiency, their teamwork now seamless. By mid-morning, they sat together at a small table inside the dome. Mara poured water into 2 cups, offering one to Cole. Their fingers brushed slightly as he took it, and neither pulled away. "You know," Mara said, her tone thoughtful, "I never expected to find someone I could trust out here, someone who could handle the desert. And me." Cole met her gaze, his expression earnest. "I've wandered a lot of worlds, faced more dangers than I care to count, but out here, with you, it feels right. Like I finally found a place where I belong." Mara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Then maybe we can face whatever the desert throws at us together. Not as lone survivors, but as partners."
Cole nodded.
Partners? The twin moons rose again over Eridra, 9, casting silver light across the dome. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, full of challenges and mysteries. But inside, there was warmth, trust, and a bond forged in shared danger. Over the next few days, Cole and Mara worked to rebuild and strengthen the ranch. Automated defenses were repaired, the herd was checked and tended, and the artifact's energy was carefully monitored. Mara trained Cole in the subtle intricacies of the ranch's security systems, while Cole taught her tactical maneuvers and defensive strategies for any future attacks. Despite the constant work, moments of quiet emerged. They shared meals, stories, and small jokes. In the evenings, under the alien constellations, they would sit outside, gazing at the stars. Their conversations drifted from survival to dreams, from plans to hopes. One evening, as the twin moons reflected off the polished surface of the artifact, Mara turned to Cole. "Do you think we'll ever have a quiet life out here? Maybe not quiet, but meaningful. Every day out here is a chance to protect what matters. And I can't think of anyone I'd rather share that with than you."
"I feel the same. You came into this desert like a storm."
And stayed like the calm afterward. Cole reached out, his hand brushing hers. "Then we face it together, from the desert plains to wherever the stars take us." Days passed, and the settlement around Mara's ranch slowly returned to normal. Traders and settlers returned, curious about the events at the canyon. The artifact remained safely protected, its secrets known only to Mara and Cole. Their bond had grown, tested by danger, strengthened by trust, and tempered by shared experience. One morning as the suns rose over the horizon, Cole saddled his hover horse. "I need to scout the northern ridges," he said. Mara looked at him, a soft smile on her face. "Be safe. I'll hold the fort here." Cole nodded, but before leaving, he bent slightly, lowering his voice. "I'm not just protecting the herd, Mara. I'm protecting you too." Mara felt warmth in her chest, a quiet reassurance. "And I know you'll always be here. He tipped his hat and rode off, moving with the confidence of someone who had found purpose. Mara watched him go, the desert wind tugging at her hair. The plains were vast, wild, and unpredictable, but she no longer felt alone. By nightfall, Cole returned, the stars reflecting off the desert's surface like scattered jewels. Mara greeted him, her smile bright in the moonlight. Together they watched the twin moons rise, the artifact safely pulsing nearby, the herd grazing quietly. In that moment, Mara realized that life on Eridra 9 was no longer just about survival. It was about connection, partnership, and the quiet joy of facing the frontier together. Cole had become more than a cowboy passing through. He had become her ally, her protector, and a part of the life she was rebuilding. The desert wind whispered across the plains, carrying the faint hum of distant machinery and the quiet sounds of the herd. The threat of raiders or rogue scavengers lingered, but it no longer filled Mara with fear. She had found someone to stand beside her to face the challenges and mysteries of the frontier. Cole and Mara settled by the small fire inside the dome, the artifact's soft glow illuminating their faces. Words were unnecessary. Their shared experience spoke volumes. Trust, courage, and respect had grown into something deeper, a partnership ready for any adventure that lay ahead. The twin moons of Eridra. 9 hung high in the sky, and the desert, vast and untamed, stretched endlessly before them. But for Mara and Cole, the frontier was no longer a lonely, unforgiving place. Together they had faced danger, survived the impossible, and discovered something rare and precious, the bond between two people who had learned to trust, to protect, and to care. And as the stars twinkled above, Cole whispered quietly, almost to himself, "The desert has its challenges, but I'd face them all again if it means being here with you." Mara smiled softly, the weight of the past lifting slightly. "And I'd face them with you, Cole. Always." The night settled, calm and quiet, but full of promise. The desert would remain wild, the challenges endless, but for now Mara and Cole had found safety, trust, and the beginnings of a new life. Their adventure had not ended. It had only just begun.